From the red carpet to the sidewalk, 25 homeless stories that will shock you. Behind the bright lights and glamorous glamour of Hollywood lies a dark underworld that few dare to look directly at. You wouldn't recognize them today, the faces that once made waves on the screen, loved by millions of passionate fans. From famous child stars to top red carpet stars, they once had it all: fame, money, and admiration. But behind that halo are deep tragedies, long slides with no way out. The bitter truth about depression, drug temptation, and the cold cruelty of the entertainment industry suffocated them every day. They not only lost their careers, lost their reputations, many fell into homelessness, lost in the very world that once celebrated them. Be prepared to enter the dark side of fame, where once iconic faces are now just forgotten names forgotten, painful stories that make you ask, is that halo really worth the high price they paid? Marvin Gay, soul genius and the tragedy that ended in gunfire. Marvin Gay, the name associated with soulful and profound songs, is one of the greatest artists in the history of American music. Born on April 2, 1939 in Washington, D.C., he embodied the golden era of Motown, where music was not just a melody, but an emotional story about the times. With his smooth voice, powerful and emotional performance, Marvin quickly rose to global stardom. Songs like What's Going On, Sexual Healing, and Let's Get It On were not only commercially successful, but also became timeless cultural icons. However, behind the brilliant music career was a wounded and unstable Marvin Gaye. His personal life was a long struggle with inner demons: drug addiction, financial mismanagement, failed marriages, and especially a constant conflict with his father, the pastor Marvin Gay Sr., who later took his own life. Marvin went through extremely difficult times, including homelessness and exile in Europe to avoid legal trouble and financial problems in the United States. His life was torn between artistic genius and self-destruction, between the limelight and the lonely darkness behind the scenes. His songs were often deeply personal, full of anxiety, struggle, and sometimes the silent scream of a soul searching for peace. Tragedy struck on April 1, 1984, just one day before his 45th birthday. During a heated argument at his Los Angeles home, Marvin Gaye was shot and killed by his own father. His death shocked the world, not just because he was a musical legend, but because of the harsh reality that an artist who brought healing through music could not find healing in his own family. Marvin died at the height of his career, but his music did not. His melodies continue to resonate, inspiring and stirring generations. He was not just an icon of a genre, but a voice that spoke to society, politics, and human suffering. Marvin Gaye's legacy lies not in the number of records he sold, but in the fact that he made the world listen, not just with his ears, but with his heart. Natasha Lion. From a troubled childhood to an icon of recovery and success, Natasha Lion, a charismatic actress with a distinctive husky voice and piercing eyes, has been one of the most prominent faces of modern American television, especially through two hit series, Orange is the New Black and Russian Doll. But before landing her iconic roles, Lion had to overcome a path filled with darkness, chaos, and pain, both in her soul and in real life. Born on April 4, 1979 in New York City, Natasha entered the entertainment industry very early as a promising child actress with roles in Heartburn and Dennis the Menace. She had an innate talent for acting, but at the same time had to deal with an unstable family, a fractured growing up environment, and the pressure of early fame. Natasha's teenage years were a series of rebellious days. She was expelled from school, separated from her parents, and quickly turned to alcohol and drugs. Those destructive habits continued for years, leading to legal trouble, forced rehab, and even a period of homelessness in 2005, when she was living on the streets of New York, homeless, jobless, and almost hopeless. It seemed like the end, but Lion refused to give up. She went to a homeless shelter and started attending Alcoholics Anonymous AA meetings. She has said that meeting strangers who would listen without judgment saved her life. From those conversations from her first sober hours and years, Natasha began to rebuild her life brick by brick. Although she initially received only small roles, Natasha persevered, taking every opportunity to prove her talent. And then that resilience paid off with the role of Nikki Nichols on Orange is the New Black, an addict, complex and emotional character, almost a copy of her real-life self. The audience didn't just see the acting, but saw the heartbreaking honesty. Because Lion didn't act, she shared herself. Not stopping at acting, she also proved her writing and directing ability through the series Russian Doll, which was praised by critics for its psychological depth and unique storytelling. Notably, she did not hesitate to use this successful platform to raise awareness about addiction, homelessness, and mental health, issues that she herself experienced and understood better than anyone. Today, Natasha Lion is not only a TV star, but also a brave voice for a generation of artists who dare to speak the truth, live the truth. Her story is not rosy, not evasive, but full of humanity, and reminds us that no matter how low we fall, we can still come back if we are determined enough and find a community to cling to. Willie Ames, from teen stardom to homelessness and a resilient comeback. Willie Ames was one of the most beloved faces on American television in the 1970s. Born on July 15, 1960 in Newport Beach, California, he entered the entertainment industry at a very young age and soon became famous for his role in the hit TV series 8 is Enough. With his handsome looks, charm, and natural demeanor, Ames became the idol of millions of teenage viewers, a symbol of early success and potential in the entertainment industry. However, behind the spotlight was a more fractured reality. As the spotlight began to fade in the 1980s, Ames's acting career gradually slowed down. With no big contracts or movie offers, he fell into a state of depression, lost his direction, and gradually turned to drugs and alcohol to escape reality. Like many other young stars, Ames was not prepared for life after fame, and he paid a heavy price for it. The decline of his career led to serious financial crises. Ames was arrested many times, declared bankruptcy, and by 2007, he was officially homeless, living on the streets of Vancouver, British Columbia. A man who had millions of fans now struggled to survive every day in the cold and poverty. He once shared that it was the most painful and humiliating period of his life, but it was also the time when he realized, either change or drown forever. And Ames chose to change. He went to a homeless shelter, attended AA meetings, and began the first steps of his recovery journey. It wasn't easy, but with each sober day and each opportunity to help others, he slowly got back on his feet. Soon, Ames began volunteering as a counselor for others in similar situations, helping them overcome addiction, homelessness, and mental trauma. He also chronicled that emotional journey in his memoir, Grace is Gone, a heartfelt, heartbreaking, and hopeful work. Today, Willie Ames is not only an inspirational speaker, but also a living testament that no matter how hard life knocks us down, there is always a way to get back up, if we are brave enough to find ourselves again. His story is a wake-up call about the fragility of fame and a light for those lost in the darkness of life. Margot Kidder, a one-time icon in her resilient journey against the darkness. Margot Kidder, born October 17, 1948 in Yellowknife, Canada, was one of the most beloved movie icons of the 70s and 80s. With her intelligent eyes, sharp smile, and confident demeanor, she carved a deep impression on global audiences through her role as Lois Lane in the hit Superman series, alongside the legendary Christopher Reeve. This was not only a career-defining role, but also became an irreplaceable pop culture icon. Over the course of her decades-long acting career, Kidder has appeared in more than 100 films and television shows, including Black Christmas, the hit horror series The Amityville Horror, and the series Smallville, a tribute to the legacy she helped build. Her performance was honored with many prestigious nominations, including a Saturn Award for Best Actress for her role as Lois Lane. But behind the spotlight and the applause was a very different story, more painful, more naked. Margot Kidder openly struggled with bipolar disorder, a journey filled with hardship and misunderstanding. In 1996, she suffered a serious mental breakdown, not only under the scrutiny of the media, but also facing a complete collapse of her personal and financial life. Kidder wandered the streets, homeless with no place to go, with only the kindness of friends and strangers to help her get through each day. Despite falling into the darkest times of her life, she did not let that define her. Kidder continued to act, albeit in smaller roles, but always with a burning passion and dedication to her craft. Her resilience, battling mental illness, overcoming adversity, and never giving up, inspired millions of fans around the world. Margot Kidder passed away on May 13, 2018, at the age of 69. But her legacy goes beyond her iconic film roles, and she is also a symbol of courage, a woman who never stopped fighting, whether on screen or in her own life. John Michael Vincent, the one-time male god in the endless slump. Jan Michael Vincent was once the most handsome face in Hollywood, a symbol of masculinity and charm in the 70s and 80s. With his cold eyes, strong appearance, and captivating acting style, Vincent made millions of hearts flutter through films such as Bite the Bullet, Hooper, and especially the famous role in the TV series Airwolf, where he transformed into a super pilot in breathtaking missions. During his more than 20-year career, Vincent stood side by side with legends such as John Wayne and Burt Reynolds, creating lifetime cinematic works. However, the halo could not hide the smoldering darkness in his personal life. Fame came with deadly temptations. Stimulants, alcohol, and legal troubles began to sink his career little by little. Despite repeated attempts to revive his career, Jan Michael Vincent could not escape the spiral of addiction. His life became so chaotic that by the early 2000s, he was homeless. From a sought-after actor to a homeless person on the streets of California. From the spotlight to the dark corners of the sidewalk, his journey is a testament to the high price of fame and the cruelty of addiction. Vincent's final years were a series of silent battles with illness and loneliness. A serious infection forced him to have part of his leg amputated. A once glorious figure now reduced to a heartbreaking image of a man who had reached the top and then hit rock bottom. Yet he never gave up. Vincent sought help, tried to lift his spirits, and encouraged others not to give up in the face of adversity. On February 10, 2019, Jan Michael Vincent died at the age of 74 at Mission Hospital in Asheville, North Carolina, of cardiac arrest. His death capped a tumultuous journey, from Hollywood's golden boy to a tragic icon of an unforgiving entertainment world. But more than his performances, his greatest legacy is his story, a powerful reminder of the fragility of fame and the strength to endure in the face of invisible wounds. MC Hammer, from the peak of fame to the financial pit, a story of fall and resurrection. Stanley Kirk Burrell, aka MC Hammer, was a name that stirred up every music scene in the late 1880s and early 1990s. He was not just a rapper, but a cultural phenomenon, with his signature baggy Hammer pants, eye-catching choreography, and a series of immortal songs such as You Can't Touch This and Have You Seen Her? Hammer not only brought hip-hop to the masses, but also turned it into an entertainment empire with an income of up to tens of millions of dollars per year. At his peak, MC Hammer earned nearly $33 million a year, lived in a luxurious mansion, owned a fleet of supercars, a private jet, and an entourage of more than 200 people, from dancers, stylists, to personal bodyguards. He was like a king in the music world, where everything he touched turned to gold. But that kingdom collapsed faster than anyone expected. The success was too fast and too big, causing Hammer to fall into the trap that many stars have fallen into, spending beyond control. Not only did he indulge himself, he also spent money to help friends, family, and even acquaintances. When the cash flow was no longer steady, unpaid bills, taxes, and a series of lawsuits began to come. In 1996, Hammer officially filed for bankruptcy with debts of more than $14 million. His luxurious mansion in Fremont, California, once a symbol of his wealth, was seized and auctioned off for just $1.3 million, less than a fraction of its real value. He was forced to sell all of his assets, even his iconic Hammer pants, as a desperate way to survive. But what makes MC Hammer's story special is not the fall, but how he got back up. Though he's no longer a regular on stage, he hasn't given up on music. Hammer continues to produce material that's not as big as it once was. More importantly, he's pivoted to entrepreneurship and philanthropy, launching his own record label, founding a digital media company, and actively participating in community support programs. Today, MC Hammer may no longer be topping the Billboard charts, but he's become a successful entrepreneur, a model of resilience and adaptability, and a role model for those struggling in the midst of failure. His story is a clear warning about the dangers of unbridled luxury and living proof that falling down isn't the end if you have the courage to get up. Hammer once said, "I'd rather lose it all and start over than never dream big." And that's the spirit he's left behind for the next generation, not just as a legendary rapper, but as a true warrior in real life. Erin Moran, from teen star to unexpected life. Erin Moran was once a familiar name to millions of viewers when she played Joni Cunningham on the popular sitcom Happy Days. Born on October 18, 1960 in Burbank, California, she quickly became a teen idol thanks to her cute image, bubbly personality, and the perfect combination with co-star Scott Baio in the Joni, Chachi love story that made viewers unable to take their eyes off. With the popularity of the show, Moran became a frequent face on magazine covers, talk shows, and television events. But like many other child actors and young stars, early fame did not come with preparation for life after. After Happy Days ended, Moran's career began to decline. She had difficulty finding new roles, especially when the image of Joni was ingrained in the public mind. With no steady income, she faced serious financial problems. By 2010, Moran was evicted from her home in California, homeless, living in her car, or relying on friends for support. The media at that time reported extensively on her miserable life. For many, it was hard to believe that a once famous star would end her life in such a state. But for Moran, it was the reality, harsh and not rosy. In addition to financial difficulties, she also faced personal traumas such as divorce and alcoholism, which made all efforts to return to the spotlight go nowhere. On April 22, 2017, Erin Moran passed away at the age of 56 from complications of terminal throat cancer. Her death was a wake-up call about the real life behind the spotlight, where not everyone can maintain the halo and not every star is helped when they hit rock bottom. The role of Joni Cunningham lives on in audiences' hearts, but Erin Moran's real-life story is even more memorable, a clear demonstration of the dark side of fame and how the showbiz system can easily forget the very people who made it shine. Leif Garrett, teen icon and the price of early fame. Leif Garrett was once a name that drove a generation of fans crazy. Born on November 8, 1961 in Hollywood, California, Garrett emerged in the late 1970s as one of the most prominent teenage idols. With his handsome looks, romantic blonde hair, and pleasant pop voice, he quickly became a phenomenon. The hit "I Was Made for Dancin'" catapulted him to the top of fame, cementing his position as a pop icon of the time. However, early fame also had serious consequences. Garrett was not equipped to deal with the pressures and temptations of star life. At a very young age, he began to get involved with drugs, a bad decision that derailed both his career and his personal life. Garrett's long-term addiction has led to a series of legal troubles, from arrests for drug possession to incidents involving violence and probation violations. Along with his precarious financial situation, he has been struggling to survive, even homeless, a stark contrast to the lavish lifestyle he once enjoyed during his heyday. Despite his attempts to quit, attend rehabilitation programs, and seek help, Garrett's journey to regaining his balance has not been easy. He has faced a series of setbacks, from attempts to return to the stage to trying his hand at reality TV, all of which have failed to restore his former glory. Today, Leif Garrett is still struggling with the consequences of his past, trying to maintain a stable life and avoid the temptations that destroyed him. Though he is no longer at the center of the entertainment industry, his journey remains a matter of public interest, not just for sympathy, but also as a lesson in how fame can easily crush those who are not strong enough. Garrett's story is a clear example of the dark side of celebrity culture. It shows that behind the spotlight, men who were once the poster boys of a generation can also fall, without the right support and a strong enough system to protect them from the very industry that pushed them to the top. Mindy McCrady, the angelic voice, falls in the tragedy of fame. Mindy McCrady, born November 30th, 1975 in Fort Myers, Florida, was one of the brightest stars of American country music in the 1990s. With her powerful emotional voice and hits like Guys Do It All the Time and 10,000 Angels, she quickly became a generational icon, receiving praise from critics and audiences alike. Not only did she have a distinctive voice, but she also possessed the sincerity in each of her lyrics, something that touched the hearts of millions of music lovers. But behind that glamorous image was a stormy life. Fame came too soon, leaving Mindy unprepared for the invisible pressures. She began to sink deeper into drug addiction, became involved in toxic relationships, and was frequently involved in legal trouble, from arrests to probation violations. Attempts to get sober, recover, and return to her career were endless, but were all marred by her persistent mental instability. Mindy's personal life was not easy either. She fought custody battles, was constantly in the media with controversies, and was portrayed as a fallen star. Each attempt to get back on her feet was accompanied by more painful falls. Her singing career slowly faded. Doors that had once been open to her closed, leaving a lonely woman with a heavy past and a deeply wounded soul. The tragedy culminated on February 17th, 2013, when Mindy took her own life at her Arkansas home, just weeks after her boyfriend died from the same cause. She died at the age of 37, leaving behind 2 young children and a music industry devastated. Once a promising singer, she left the world far too young, leaving behind a heart that is yet to heal. Mindy McCrady's story is a stark reminder of the terrible cost of fame when not accompanied by timely mental health support. It also highlights the need to listen, help, and stand by those struggling with mental health, because not everyone is strong enough to overcome the darkness alone. David Cassidy, From Keith Partridge to the Dark Side of Life. When the Stars Go Out. David Cassidy was once a name that shook the hearts of millions of young girls around the world. Born on April 12, 1950 in New York City, he was not only a shining star of the 1970s, but also a great teen icon, the one who brought life to the character Keith Partridge in the hit TV series The Partridge Family. His handsome face, sweet voice, and charming style made every stage he stepped on a fever. With immortal hits like I Think I Love You and Come On Get Happy, David quickly rose to international stardom. He not only conquered the small screen, but also dominated the pop music world. But like many stars who bloomed too early, the light he radiated also carried a large shadow of expectation, pressure, and unspeakable loneliness. Behind the glamorous stage, David Cassidy was a man struggling with silent pain. He had to live under the mask of an ideal hero while his soul was increasingly exhausted. The expectations from the audience, the scrutiny of the media, and the pressure to maintain a perfect image gradually broke him down. David began to turn to alcohol and drugs as a temporary escape, but the more he ran away, the deeper he sank into darkness. Broken personal relationships, depleted finances, and a stalled career pushed David to the brink. In 2010, the image of David Cassidy, once at the peak of fame, now living in a small rented apartment in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, struggling to pay the bills, made fans feel bitter. Not long after, he was evicted from his home and forced to live in his car, a sad symbol of his unstoppable decline. I felt ashamed. I felt like a complete failure, Cassidy admitted in an interview. But his courage in coming out about his condition is what makes him all the more admirable. He didn't hide, he didn't make excuses. He chose to face it and share it, to show those struggling in the dark that they are not alone. David Cassidy passed away on November 21st, 2017, leaving behind not only a treasure trove of music and childhood memories, but also a poignant lesson about the fragility of fame. His story is a powerful reminder that fame is not immune to pain, and that even those who have been honored can fall when they lack support and sympathy from society. Today, David Cassidy's legacy is more than just music or film. It's a call to action, a humane voice for the importance of mental health care and helping those experiencing homelessness. He's gone, but his fighting spirit lives on in the hearts of his fans. Lonnie Willis, from Baywatch Angel to Los Angeles Street Corner, the tragedy of a once brilliant life. Lonnie Willis, a name that once captivated many people with her hot body, radiant smile, and confident demeanor, was once a beauty and talent icon in the American entertainment industry. Born on October 30th, 1969 in Los Angeles, California, she rose to fame through her roles on hit TV shows like Baywatch and Nash Bridges, becoming a familiar face on the small screen in the 90s. Her modeling and acting career seemed to be on the rise forever, until everything suddenly changed. From the peak of fame, Lonnie's life fell into free fall as she faced a series of personal and psychological events. A painful public divorce, along with family rifts, caused her to collapse. In the years that followed, Lonnie slowly disappeared from the spotlight, and by 2015, she was found wandering the dusty streets of Los Angeles, homeless, without family, and seemingly forgotten by the world. What makes Lonnie's story even more heartbreaking is that she suffers from a physical disability that makes working for a living almost impossible. A person who once lived in luxury, who had everything many people dreamed of, now struggles every day for food, water, and a temporary place to sleep. Images of her pushing a garbage cart, foraging for food from trash bins, her eyes glazed over and her body emaciated, shocked the international media and made many people feel guilty. However, Lonnie Willis is more than just a tragedy. She is a symbol of resilience. Instead of hiding, she bravely spoke up, sharing the harsh reality of homelessness, a social issue that is still being ignored with a cold gaze. Lonnie used her own situation to call for sympathy, raise public awareness, and inspire others who are also struggling with seemingly insurmountable challenges. Lonnie's story is not only a reminder of the fragility of fame, but also a warning bell for modern society. Falling can happen to anyone, no matter how successful or famous they once were. And most importantly, it shows the extraordinary power of courage. When a woman who has lost everything still stands up, speaks her truth, and fights tirelessly to be seen as a human being, not just a famous person who wanders. Dana Plato, a shining teen star who faded out in tragedy. Dana Plato, whose name was once engraved in the hearts of millions of American audiences as Kimberly Drummond in the hit sitcom Different Strokes, was born on November 7, 1964 in Maywood, California. With her pretty face, smiling eyes, and genuine acting, she became a role model for every teenage girl in the late 70s and early 80s. But behind the bright lights was a stormy life. After the glory of Different Strokes ended, Dana struggled to escape the shadow of her childhood role. Transitioning to adult roles was not as easy as expected. Her career declined, leading to a financial crisis, and acting opportunities gradually closed. Without support, no more bright roles, Dana gradually sank into the darkness of oblivion. She began relying on tranquilizers and painkillers, which initially helped her sleep, but then became the only thing that made her feel okay. Along with legal troubles, years of homelessness, and the pain of losing custody of her children. Despite her efforts to recover and appearing on shows to talk about her journey, Dana could not escape the spiral of addiction and depression. On May 8, 1999, at the age of 34, Dana Plato was found dead of a prescription drug overdose. Initially thought to be an accident, it was later determined to be a suicide. Her death not only devastated her fans, but also raised alarm bells about the cruelty of fame. Dana was not simply a fading star. She was a symbol of the silent pain that the entertainment industry often ignored. Her story is a powerful warning about the consequences of a lack of psychological and human support for young stars at the peak of the limelight. Gary Coleman, the celebrity child star, and his life swept away by early fame. Gary Coleman, born February 8, 1968 in Zion, Illinois, was one of the most brilliant child stars of the 1970s and 1980s. He rose to international fame with his role as Arnold Jackson in the hit comedy series Different Strokes, 1978 to 1986. With his diminutive stature, mischievous smile, and the iconic line, What you talking about, Willis? Gary quickly became a pop culture icon, beloved by millions. However, early success also brought tragedy. Coleman suffered from a kidney disease that left him only 1 meter 42 tall and required lifelong surgery. But what made his life even more chaotic were those closest to him. After earning millions of dollars through acting, Gary discovered that the money had been misused by his adoptive parents and legal managers. He sued his own family, and although he won the case, the money was not enough to salvage his depleted finances. After Different Strokes ended, Gary struggled to regain his former glory. Roles dwindled, while his child star image made it difficult for him to be cast in adult roles. He tried small television projects, worked as a security guard, appeared on a reality show, and even ran for governor of California in 2003, all of which failed to revive his fading career. At the same time, legal problems, public scandals, and a publicized personal life kept him under constant media scrutiny. Gary Coleman died on May 28, 2010, at the age of 42, after suffering a massive brain hemorrhage after falling in the shower. His death shocked the public, not only because of the suddenness of his passing, but because he died alone after a lifetime of relentless fighting to retain what was once his reputation, his finances, and his faith in humanity. Today, Gary Coleman is remembered as a television icon, a face that has been a part of the childhoods of millions. But behind the spotlight is a heartbreaking story of vulnerability, the suffocation of early fame, and a warning to the entertainment industry. No one should trade their childhood for a short-lived spotlight. Aaron Carter, the teen idol lost between the stage lights and the dark souls. Aaron Carter, born December 7, 1987 in Tampa, Florida, was the epitome of a teen idol in the late 90s. At just 10 years old, he sent audiences around the world into a frenzy with Aaron's Party, Come Get It, followed by hits like I Want Candy and That's How I Beat Shaq. With his blonde hair, shy smile, and upbeat tunes, Aaron quickly became a musical phenomenon, winning the hearts of millions of teens across America. But when the lights dimmed, Aaron Carter gradually revealed himself as a kid who had never fully grown up. Growing up in a dysfunctional family, financial pressure, early fame, and lack of direction pushed him into a spiral of addiction, mental instability, and identity crisis. In his 20s, Aaron was in the news for personal scandals, family feuds, bankruptcy, and multiple stints in rehab. What was more heartbreaking, however, was that Aaron did not hide his pain. He spoke openly about his mental health issues, having been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, anxiety, and depression. He often live-streamed his recovery journey, trying to rebuild his life, releasing music, and gaining custody of his young son, all while struggling with his own demons. Although it seemed like he was on the mend, Aaron was still singing, still writing, still wanting to be loved and understood. Tragedy eventually struck. On November 5, 2022, Aaron Carter was found dead in the bathtub of his California home at the age of 34. An autopsy revealed that he died of accidental drowning after taking alprazolam, Xanax, and compressed air. A sad end for a man who once took the world by storm with his music. Aaron's death is not only a loss of an artist, but also a painful reminder of the dark side of fame, the isolation of young stars, and the weak mental health support system in the entertainment world. He left while still yearning for love and acceptance, like the boy who once danced on stage. Today, fans remember Aaron Carter not only for his upbeat songs, but also for a soul that has never been at peace. His story is a powerful reminder that behind the fame are souls that need to be protected, listened to, and healed. Todd Bridges, from TV icon to inspiration. Behind the shadows of addiction, Todd Bridges, born May 27, 1965, in San Francisco, California, was one of the most familiar and beloved faces on American television in the late 1970s and early 1980s. As the intelligent, affectionate older brother Willis Jackson on the classic sitcom Different Strokes, 1978 to 1986, Todd touched the hearts of millions of viewers around the world. When Gary Coleman said, "What you talking about, Willis?" Todd Bridges was Willis, the ideal of a calm and responsible older brother. However, as a curse of early fame, Todd Bridges' real life behind the spotlight was full of turmoil. When the show ended, he entered adulthood with a damaged soul, a sense of loss, and an unpreparedness to live beyond fame. Todd slowly fell into addiction, legal trouble, including being arrested for drug possession and suspected of being involved in a crime. At one point, he was behind bars, thinking his career and life were over. But Todd Bridges did not give up. He sought treatment, recovery, and a detox program, not just once, but a long and arduous journey. He bravely faced his darkness, admitted his mistakes, and gradually regained control of his life. More importantly, Todd did not just save himself. He began to speak out, share, and become an inspiration to thousands of others struggling with addiction and trauma. Today, Todd Bridges continues to appear on television shows, both as an actor and as a guest, sharing his journey through addiction. He is not afraid to talk about his dark past, because he understands it is necessary to help others find the light. From a lost celebrity kid to a living example of resilience, Todd Bridges is a hopeful conclusion to this list. Not all stars are doomed to fail. Some, no matter how many times they fall, get back up, stronger, more real, and brave enough to help others not fall as they did. For Todd, the greatest victory is not on screen, but the victory over oneself. Every day, anew. Corey Haim, the teen angel who fell into the shadow of addiction. Corey Haim, real name Corey Ian Haim, born December 23, 1971 in Toronto, Canada, was a teen movie icon in the 1980s. With his leading roles in Lucas and The Lost Boys, along with his natural demeanor and sincere eyes, Corey quickly became the heartthrob of the younger generation. His real-life relationship with co-star Corey Feldman also helped spread his name in the film-loving community. But after only a few years of conquering the hearts of audiences, Corey began to sink deeper into addiction. Having started experimenting with drugs since his teens, addiction took a brutal toll on his life. His career gradually stagnated, he no longer had big roles, his finances dried up, and his reputation began to be tarnished. He was hospitalized, his weight dropped, and his public statements about himself only added to the media's relentless scrutiny. Although Corey tried to get clean, attend therapy, and at least twice restore his reputation with fan meetings, his demons became increasingly difficult to control. On March 10, 2010, at the age of 38, Corey died of complications from pneumonia and prescription drugs, a tragic end to a life filled with talent and trauma. The news left fans speechless, a teenage idol who had failed to overcome himself. Corey Haim's story is a sad warning. Early fame and inner emptiness can easily lead to scars that never heal, and a lack of mental health support can kill a future. Jim Carrey, the great clown, finds himself. Between the lights of fame and the darkness of the soul, Jim Carrey, the name that once made the whole world laugh, was born on January 17, 1962, in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. He is not only a comedian, but also a global cultural phenomenon. With films such as Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, Liar Liar, or Dumb and Dumber, Carrey has left a strong impression with his free-spirited acting, flexible face, and seemingly endless energy. The 90s was the golden age of Jim Carrey. From a poor boy who used to live in a van with his family, he rose to become one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. Fame, money, hit roles, and millions of fans. It seemed like he had it all, but behind the broad smile was a soul full of scars. For years, Carrey struggled with severe depression, a silent battle that no one saw coming. The pain was compounded when his ex-girlfriend, Catriona White, died of a drug overdose in 2015 after a contentious and bitter relationship. Carrey was caught up in lawsuits, blamed, and once again forced to confront his own pain. But instead of falling apart, Jim Carrey chose to stop. He withdrew from the spotlight, turned down blockbuster deals, and turned to a more private lifestyle. Instead of seeking laughter from the public, he sought solitude through painting, meditation, and writing. He spoke openly about his spiritual journey, about letting go of his ego and the so-called success that Hollywood imposed. Nowadays, Jim Carrey only appears when he really wants to, like in Kidding or Sonic the Hedgehog. But even when he was acting, he was no longer Jim Carrey the actor, but a Jim Carrey who had awakened, lived truthfully, and chosen peace over fame. Carrey's story is not a collapse, but a quiet but courageous rebirth. He is not only someone who makes the world laugh, but also someone who dares to cry, dares to touch the dark corners, and dares to let go. Brett Butler, from TV star to the abyss of addiction and the journey to rise from ruin. Brett Butler, born January 30th, 1958 in Montgomery, Alabama, was one of America's most beloved comedic actresses in the 1990s. With her role as Grace Kelly, a tough and witty single mother in the hit series Grace Under Fire, 1993 to 1998, Brett not only made audiences laugh, but also touched their hearts with her honesty and strength. The series achieved sky-high viewership ratings, making her one of the highest-paid female stars on television at that time. However, behind the model mother image on screen was a Brett Butler who was struggling with herself. The pressure of fame, combined with past trauma and self-destructive habits, caused her to fall into a spiral of addiction to painkillers and addictive substances. Her career began to unravel. Her erratic behavior, accusations from colleagues, and disciplinary issues led to her being fired from the series that had made her a household name. Hollywood turned its back on her, and acting opportunities began to disappear. As Brett fell further and further, she lost control. She became severely depressed, her finances dried up, and she eventually became homeless, living off the support of friends and a foundation. It was a dark time as a once nationally beloved person was left fighting for survival, with nothing left but her self-esteem eroding. But Brett Butler refused to give up. She entered rehab, underwent therapy, and began a decades-long journey of recovery. Gradually, she regained her balance, rediscovered her love of acting, and appeared in small television roles on The Walking Dead, Anger Management, and The Morning Show. Although she is no longer at the peak of her fame, every time she appears, Brett brings the image of a real person, imperfect but deep and full of determination. Today, Brett Butler lives a private life, continues to receive therapy, and writes. She often shares about her journey of rebirth, without embellishment, without concealment, but with all the humility of someone who has hit rock bottom. Audiences love her not only for her old laughs, but also for her courage to face, to change, and to be true to herself. John Drew Barrymore. The heir lost in the family spotlight. John Drew Barrymore was born on June 4th, 1932 in Los Angeles, the heart of the American film industry. He was a descendant of one of the most illustrious Hollywood film families, the Barrymores. His father, John Barrymore, was one of the greatest stage actors of all time, and his daughter, Drew Barrymore, would later become one of the most prominent actresses of the new generation. With such a heavy surname, John not only inherited fame, but also shouldered a huge legacy. He began his acting career in the 1950s, quickly gaining attention with his charming appearance and natural acting ability. His roles in While the City Sleeps and Thunderbirds Are Go showed his potential and were once expected to continue the family spotlight. But instead of continuing on the path to fame, John Drew gradually slipped off the track. The pressure of inheriting his name, along with deep wounds from his personal life, pushed him into a spiral of addiction. He was arrested many times for drug use, causing public disturbances, and was once banned by many film studios. From a young talent, John became a person shunned by Hollywood. His career stagnated, his relationships broke down, and he lived long years in loneliness and instability. Every time he appeared, there was no longer admiration, but regretful headshakes. Worse, he lost contact with most of his family members, including his daughter, Drew Barrymore, who later also struggled with addiction, but overcame it and became a great success. Only at the end of his life, when his health declined due to cancer, did Drew bring his father closer to take care of him, reconnecting the family bond that had been broken for many years. John Drew Barrymore died on November 29, 2004, at the age of 72. He passed away quietly, far from the glamorous image that people once thought he would reap. His life is a true cinematic tragedy, an actor with a golden bloodline, but whose future was strangled by his past, fame, and addiction. His legacy lies not in his great roles, but in the bitter story he left behind, that a prestigious bloodline does not guarantee a glorious life without inner control, sobriety, and timely support. He is living proof that fame can be a gift, but also the most cruel challenge if you are not ready to bear it. Danny Bonaduce, from childhood, glory to the journey of rebirth in consciousness. Danny Bonaduce was born on August 13, 1959, and was one of the most prominent child stars of American television with the role of Danny Partridge in the hit series The Partridge Family. When he was just over 10 years old, Danny was already a household name, mischievous, intelligent, and charming. But what no one saw behind those funny episodes was that the young actor's childhood was surrounded by domestic violence, the pressure of fame and fierce isolation. As an adult, Danny could not avoid the curse of many other child stars: addiction, depression, bankruptcy, and periods of homelessness. His life for many years was a long series of public scandals, chaotic relationships, and serious financial and mental decline. Danny used to live in his car, homeless, and was pursued by the media not because of his talent, but because of the scandals surrounding his chaotic personal life. However, instead of losing everything, Danny found a way to turn his life around. He entered the radio industry, gradually rebuilding his career with his inherent sincerity and humor. From 2011 to the end of 2023, he was one of the favorite radio MCs in Seattle, where he was no longer a faded child star, but a strong, ordinary, and approachable voice. In 2023, Danny suddenly faced a new challenge. He was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, a disease that affects his ability to move. He had to have surgery to install a brain drainage system, facing the risk of losing the ability to walk. But once again, Bonaduce did not give up. He chose to share his healing journey publicly, without hiding or pretending to be strong. And that is what made the public admire him even more. In mid-December 2023, Danny officially announced his retirement after more than 6 decades in the entertainment industry. He moved to Palm Springs with his wife to enjoy a peaceful life, focusing on health, meditation, and finding peace after the storm. Today, Danny Bonaduce is no longer the brightest star in Hollywood, but he is an icon of resilience. He survived pain, a broken reputation, and even illness, to become an example of honesty, courage, and recovery. Not everyone can come back from the depths, but Danny did it, humbly and inspiringly. Amanda Peterson, a teen spark that faded out amidst the darkness of addiction and loneliness. Amanda Peterson, born July 8, 1971 in Greeley, Colorado, was one of the brightest faces of teen cinema in the late 1980s. She became an icon after just one role: Cindy Mancini in the film Can't Buy Me Love, 1987, opposite Patrick Dempsey. With her blonde hair, sweet smile, and striking beauty, Amanda not only captured the hearts of audiences, but was also expected to be the next big star in Hollywood. But like a shooting star that shines brightly and then fades away, Amanda's career did not last long. After several films and television appearances, she abruptly withdrew from the entertainment industry in the early 1990s. Behind that decision was a series of quiet events: the pressure of early fame, psychological problems that were not properly supported, and especially the experience of being sexually assaulted at the age of 15, something she kept secret for many years, only to be revealed by her family after her death. No longer in the spotlight, Amanda lived quietly in her hometown of Colorado, away from the media. But life was not peaceful. She faced depression, anxiety, and prescription drug abuse, unsuccessful attempts to heal herself. Having been arrested for drug possession, she struggled to maintain stability in her life, from work to finances, from her role as a mother to her efforts to maintain her image in the eyes of her family. On July 3, 2015, just days before her 44th birthday, Amanda was found dead in her home. Reports said she died of a drug overdose, a heartbreaking accident that ended the life of a talent once loved by the whole of America. What's even sadder is that at that time, she tried to get back on her feet, live optimistically, and prepare to return to a more positive life. But her late recovery was not enough to save her from the consequences of her dark years. Amanda Peterson's passing shocked and saddened fans, not only because she was once a teen idol, but because her life reflected the dark side of early fame, of unhealed psychological wounds, and of a system that failed to protect young talents who were struggling under invisible pressure. Today, Amanda is no longer here, but Cindy Mancini's smile lives on in the hearts of audiences. And more than a role, she left behind a sobering story. Fame is not a weapon against emotional trauma without the right companionship, sharing, and healing. Lisa Robin Kelly, the rebellious star of That 70s Show and the darkness behind the lights. Lisa Robin Kelly was once a name associated with the image of her older sister, Lori Foreman, in the hit TV series That 70s Show. With her witty, charming, and somewhat rebellious acting style, she quickly won the hearts of viewers, contributing to the special appeal of the film. Born on March 5, 1970 in Southington, Connecticut, Lisa entered Hollywood with full potential, natural talent, and a cinematic face. However, behind the stage lights, Lisa was a wounded and unstable soul. When her career began to take off, she also had to face a silent but brutal battle: alcohol and drug addiction. The cracks in her psychology and personal life quickly affected her work. She was fired from That 70s Show after arriving on set several times in a state of intoxication, which led to a series of legal troubles for drunk driving, violence, and breaking the law. Lisa's life after that was a series of days struggling with addiction, unemployment, and trying to reintegrate into a competitive Hollywood, where lost fame is very difficult to regain. Although she sought help at times, checked into a rehab center, and publicly expressed her desire to rebuild her life, the specter of addiction was too great. It weighed heavily on her both physically and mentally, making any recovery efforts fragile. Tragedy struck on August 15, 2013. Lisa Robin Kelly died at the age of 43 from acute drug poisoning, just days after entering rehab. Her sudden death shocked fans, not only because of her untimely passing, but also because it ended a journey that everyone hoped would have a happy ending. She was a part of the childhood and youth of millions of people through television, and when she passed away, Lisa left behind an indescribable sadness, a reminder of the fragility of artistic souls who seem to live life to the fullest but are also the most vulnerable. Today, although she did not leave behind a huge film legacy, Lisa Robin Kelly still lives in the audience's memories as a symbol of charm, rebellion, and a character who has created an indispensable part of American television culture. Her life story is a wake-up call about mental health, isolation in the entertainment industry, and the need for real support for those who are silently struggling with themselves. Wesley Snipes, action star, Tax Fall, and the journey to regaining his glory. Wesley Snipes, once a Hollywood action icon of the 1990s, stood out with his powerful acting style, charismatic appearance, and multi-dimensional roles in blockbuster films such as New Jack City, Passenger 57, and White Men Can't Jump. Born on July 31, 1962 in Orlando, Florida, Snipes is not only an actor, but also a black belt in martial arts, which helps him bring realistic and engaging action scenes to the big screen. Wesley Snipes was a sought-after name throughout the 90s, especially with his iconic role as Blade, a cold-hearted vampire warrior, which brought him to the peak of global fame. But like many Hollywood stars, his career was overshadowed by off-screen troubles, this time not drugs or violence, but taxes. In 2008, Snipes faced serious charges, failing to file tax returns for years. After a highly publicized trial that attracted media attention, he was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, a sentence that shocked Hollywood. The action star, once the ideal male role model, now faced a cell and a loss of public trust. During his incarceration, Snipes did not give up. He learned, honed his screenwriting skills, and continued to study film in depth. After his release in 2013, he decided to return to his passion for art, but this time, without the glamour, without the favor of the big studios. Despite the severe disruption to his once glorious career, Wesley Snipes did not give up. He gradually found his footing in the industry by taking on supporting roles, participating in TV series and independent projects. His return in films like The Expendables 3 and Coming to America proved that he never really left the game, just paused to learn how to walk more steadily. The story of Wesley Snipes is a valuable lesson in financial management and legal responsibility, something that even celebrities are not allowed to take lightly. But above all, it is also a clear testament to the power of resilience. When a person who has lost almost everything still has the courage to stand up, start again, and move forward, albeit more slowly, but more firmly. Randy Quaid. From the peak of fame to the spiral of conspiracy and lost in the world. Randy Quaid, born October 1st, 1950 in Houston, Texas, was once one of Hollywood's most talented and versatile actors. He made a strong impression with his comedic role as Cousin Eddie in National Lampoon's Vacation and his poignant leading role in The Last Detail, earning him an Oscar nomination and a prestigious Golden Globe. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Randy was considered a unique icon, both deep and capable of making audiences laugh. But just as his career was on the rise, Randy suddenly entered a vortex of chaos that was hard to explain. Together with his wife, Evie Quaid, they were continuously involved in legal scandals, evading hotel bills, vandalism, and invading a house that once belonged to them. However, what shocked the media and public was not only their behavior, but also their strange claim that they were being hunted by an underground force they called the Hollywood Star Whackers, a mysterious organization dedicated to eliminating big stars. After being prosecuted, the couple fled to Canada to seek political asylum. They claimed to be victims of the biggest conspiracy in Hollywood, which made them the target of ridicule and raised serious questions about their mental health. The legal troubles continued, and the increasingly unbelievable claims turned Randy's image from a respected actor into a strange and shunned figure. Now in his 70s, Randy lives in seclusion in Vermont with his wife. His assets have almost been depleted, and although he occasionally appears in small films or makes shocking statements on social media, it is clear that he is no longer the movie star he once was. Randy Quaid's story is a long slide from glory to rock bottom, and a bitter reminder that fame can't protect you from yourself if you lose control of your mind and reality. Sometimes the truth is darker than fiction, and what you've just seen is only the tip of the iceberg. Who do you think is still hiding shocking secrets? Drop their name in the comments, and they might be featured in our next video. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because even crazier twists are coming your way. See you soon, and remember, in showbiz, the drama never sleeps.